and welcome to episode 2, season 2 of the Retro Brothers. My name's Andy.
And my name's Dave.
2 weeks in succession, Dave. Can you believe it?
This is scary stuff, this.
Yeah.
Very scary. Yep, we're managing to do it every week. We're not missing weeks. We're not doing it late or early or anything else. So, yeah, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about today, I see, from the show notes. We've got some good retro stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, we've moved away from the music theme from last week to some good old retro goodies.
Well,
some of it is news, even though I wasn't going to do new, but some of it's some updates on some retro hardware that's obviously in the making, or that's already been out or coming. And then obviously and there's the old thing of emulation as well.
Well, the thing is with the news thing, we're gonna still talk about relevant topics, but we're not going to just go through 15 articles of news like a lot of people do. And do you know what? It works for some people. It just didn't flow with us. So,
because by the time we tell the news, it's a week old.
And also by the time we tell the news, we're about 3 hours in.
Yeah.
And someone has to edit that and end up cutting you off.
Yeah. And the thing is, people are there's some really good channels, and I don't know how they do it. They must, as soon as the news breaks, it's on YouTube, or it's on their channel, and you think, and that's what they do. We don't. But obviously, if there's a massive thing, an event, anything that's happened,
we'll talk about things like that. And I know people still might want to see our opinions on big events, and we are going to talk about stuff like that. But today is a nice, relaxing retro day, real retro. So we've got a topic from you, and it's about the retro consoles and emulation versus emulation on Raspberry Pi, which is best.
Yeah, and the other reason I put that, it wasn't really, whoa, this versus this. It's because I've been looking at the Superconsole. It's another Android-based retro console, but they're not licensed, obviously.
No, it's another bundled, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is, you can get, we'll talk about it, but you can get RetroPie, you can get bundled RetroPie with like hundreds of thousands.
And that's what I'm getting at, really, because Superconsole, it looks nice. It's great. I mean, they've just brought out the Superconsole X Pro, which I really do like, and I quite like the controllers that's with it. Now they only bundle it with games that it supports, so that it actually does run on. The reviews that I've had, the majority of games work. Of course, it depends who you go. Some of them go, I'm only getting 40 FPS on this game, but when you look at, he's getting 40 FPS on Sonic the Hedgehog or on some of that. Does it really? Unless you're playing some AAA. Xbox One X games.
They weren't getting probably 40 FPS back then.
No. That's what I mean. So I'm not sure it actually matters that much on these, but they do play like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games are emulated on this. It does a good job of the Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64, Dreamcast. It does, because Dreamcast and emulation seems to be hard on some systems as well. Does a really good job of Dreamcast. PSP does it, because I did have a PSP or PlayStation Go. I don't know but the graphics, because it was handheld, I didn't really notice how good they were. And they were great. They were good, but PSP games really do come up really good on on a proper console that you can play on a screen, to me, and they look really, really good. And apparently some of the games are really hard to emulate, but this does it really well. It's one where you can take out the card and it'll just boot up into Android, so then you can just download Android games. So it's an Android system as well, because again, the emulation is just on an SD card. And that sort of made me think about it because, yeah, okay, it's 4K. It's got a 5. It's got, the processor's not too bad. S95M 4-core ARM Cortex 5-core Mali 450 graphics processor. So they've slightly upped the RAM as well on this one. But it got me thinking, looking on Amazon, this is like £130. I'm thinking, well, I can get a Raspberry Pi 8 gig for £60, get a case, 20, 30 quid. I've already got some controllers. Is it just because people can't be bothered? Bearing in mind, there's loads of images out there for RetroPie that you can just
There
get.
is.
Yeah, you've got to download and burn an SD card. Is this marketed at people that really don't want to even do that? They just want something that's in there, or are these actually better?
Well, it probably is. I mean, the good thing about it is you've already got the hardware sorted, so you don't have to worry about the hopefully tested it so it just doesn't, as long as it doesn't drop below 30 FPS for most games. All right, the PlayStation emulators might be a bit slow. Then, looking at it, it looks fairly decent.
Yeah.
You got your controllers.
Yeah.
And it's just plug and play. So, for me, that's great.
Yeah.
If you want, to say you've got some kids and they're a bit bored and, thinking, well, the board of the PlayStation or Xbox, which probably doesn't happen, but you just want to introduce them to some retro games, which I did and I'll go through it in a bit, and built an arcade machine, full standing arcade machine. This is perfect, so you don't have to start messing about. And the thing is, those images are very, very good, and I used an image for the arcade machine.
Yeah.
License, you've always got to question that. And it worked perfectly. Now, the downside of doing your own is the controls.
Yeah.
So if you imagine, if I were to match that, so you've got 50,000 games. Now you're going to have certain games you want to play a lot, so like Pac-Man, Space Invaders, all the ones.
Majority of USB driving wheels and light guns are compatible.
Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
You can fit 4 controllers on it. I don't know if there's any 4 player games.
But I've got a controller by the same company. It's in the box at the moment because I don't like taking it out unless I'm using it. So that's like a arcade stick with the buttons on. So it's something you get on an arcade machine.
Yeah, seen that.
And it works. Yeah. It works with any, and it's by 8-Bit Do, which we'll talk about. And they do the best controllers. Now I suspect they're probably. I hope they are anyway. 8-Bit Do controllers that are bundled with them. There might not be. There might just be some cheapo PlayStation style emulated ones, and most controllers do work. Even the really, really cheap 15 quidders. But if they, like I say, if they honestly gone through and made sure the config for most of the games work, then it's worth the money. My gut feeling is they haven't bothered. And I think you might have to play around with configuring some games, especially the complicated ones.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to go? Who's going to go through 50,000 games?
That's it. Unless they've spent some time and money and effort doing the configs so that most games will work with controls really well, then yeah, I think what you're going to find is it's going to be like potentially the same issue that I had on the arcade machine. But you get a console, it's ready to play, 130 quid, $159. It's not bad. Are you going to use it?
Well, there's the thing. I mean, I've only got Pi 3s, but they've got that. Yeah, but they've all got retro Pi on them. They've all got images. All right, 16 gig, and they've only got certain things. Do I use it? I've used them for 2 years. Having said that, you know, with the way things are, it's you know, we're all doing UK holidays, staycations, and all that. It's like great to take one of these to you know, to a caravan or somewhere.
Yeah, a lot of places now have. Yeah. Well, all places have a TV, so you can
exactly,
protect this with you.
Plug it in.
But then you can take a Raspberry Pi in a case.
Well, yeah, and I have done 1 year. I did when I first did it about 4 years ago. That's what I actually did. But obviously, since it's come back, in fact, I don't even know where it is. So, you know, and I have redone my route. I mean, in fact, no, I do know where it is, but yeah, I've just forgotten about it again. So, but I do like this. I like the look of it. I like the fact it's an Android system as well. So take that out. It's got Android TV and everything. Now, here's one for you. You probably know this, and probably people out there do. I'm not quite sure why they stick on Android 7 or 6 or 7. You know, why they're still on old Android versions as well. They don't seem to update Android versions. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I've seen some reviews, and ETA Prime does a really good review on this. He does some brilliant reviews on retro stuff. So, you know, good shout out to him. I like watching his videos, but he's done a good review on this, and a few others have. So, I mean, some say, you know, it doesn't do some games, but yet obviously when you start injecting your own games into it, yeah, you're going to come to a point where some games don't run or don't run properly. Yeah. But if 95% of them work, yeah, I think, you know, for 50,000 games, of which you're never going to play them all.
Well, that's the other thing as well. I mean, unless you've got a super duper fast broadband connection, downloading some of the really large images, which is similar to this, it's going to take you a long time. Then you've got to burn the image, and you've got to make sure the image is booting all right. And was the config of that image at the time actually decent, or was it an error? And then you have to update it. So you're getting rid of all that management, and you're getting rid of all that setup. So you're kind of paying for their time and testing and the hardware that comes with it. So actually, you think about it, it's not bad.
No, it's not. And there's a theme to this, by the way. There's something that keeps popping up every week. Have you noticed what else it does? Pico 8. It even emulates. It's got
Pico 8 emulation.
Yeah, because a Pico 8 is a software-based.
Oh yeah, it's in the list. Yeah,
it's there. So Pico 8's there. Ports. So there's port. I don't know what ports are, but
so what we're saying, we're going to release our games on this platform.
So yeah, our game could be. We license it.
It doesn't have a store, does it? So that's the only other thing. You know, I think a lot of people expect a store now where you can buy and download.
Yeah, they do.
No, it can't do that.
No, it doesn't have a store. It does. What it does do though, it goes straight off to their. They obviously have servers, and it does do updates. And if they put any new games in their image, you do get the new image.
So you could submit a Pico 8 game to them.
Yeah,
and then
exclusive.
then we must do our games and we must get it onto this platform.
Yeah, we certainly they certainly won't want the one that we do by August.
Hey, we're going to create some masterpieces.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's got MSX on there, and you think, hang on, so out of them all, there's just MSX. But that's not the full list. I've looked at the full list, and they do have Commodore 64s, Spectrums, and X80. What they are actually all on there. So it's not actually doing itself justice. It's only showing, obviously, the main ones that people know. And
the PlayStation is one of the hardest ones to do. Admittedly, that I've got about 10 titles on the PlayStation 1 emulator on the arcade machine.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to really figure around with the controller config, because it's not really matched for that. It's not very fast on the Raspberry Pi I've got. I think it's a 3. So it's a little bit underpowered for something like that. But for all the other games I've got on there, I mean, you know what? The great thing about this is, yeah, it's a bit more expensive, but it has got USB ports on the side.
Yeah,
this is totally ready to stick inside an arcade box.
I'm just wondering if, because I mean, this is their main website, and it's snazzy, but to me, it's not
minimal.
It's not giving you, yeah, it's fairly minimal of. So I'm just don't mind me, people. These are better, and it is available in the UK, by the way.
You can actually buy it from them direct.
You can buy it from them direct. It is on Amazon. If anyone wants to get it on Amazon, it is there. And it's actually at the moment on Amazon, it's £81.
Think about it. It's there, it's available, and it's ready to go. And where you get some of these where they spend years developing custom hardware, and this is where we're going, really. So going back to topic, this is emulation. But this is emulation that's been done, it's packaged, it's ready to ship, it's been shipped, it's on Amazon, people are selling it.
So there's three different versions of the Pro. So the Pro gives you, so the hardware is exactly the same, and all three. So it's a 64-bit, 4-core CPU. The memory, like I say, even though it doesn't say, there's a Console X and a Console X Pro. Now the Console X Pro gives you more memory, and it's 4K, where I think the X says it's not, but I'm not sure what the difference is. But there's a 64 gig. There's only got 30,000 games. Oof, what are you gonna? Oh God, only 30,000.
Do you know what? You think that, and I think my image was about 10,000.
Yeah,
thought, this is more than enough. I'll never need any more. Then you start looking around for certain games that you remember as a kid, and sometimes they're not always there. And it's like, oh, right, okay. So, but the only way to get more games on is really to either push it onto the SD card or re-download a bigger image and start from scratch.
Yeah. So and then there's the 128
for
version,
doing it for you.
40,000, and obviously 256 gigs. So that must be the SD cards that's in them. But yeah, take the SD card out, it loads up into Android TV. It's basically an Android TV box as well, of which then you can play Android games. And it does actually come with a remote control, Android TV remote control.
It's a shame that they haven't actually bolted it in so that you could, when it starts, you can say, right, do you want to watch TV or do you want to play a game? No, I want to watch a bit of TV. So you boot it up, fire up Netflix. That's the ultimate. And if they manage to do that, it can't be that hard, really. It's changing the boot menu, I would have thought. And if it's an older version of saying that's an older version of Android, you said.
Yes, yeah, Android version 7.
Are half the apps are actually going to work?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Although on Android TV, I think a lot of the stuff on there does. Kodi and
Kodi will, but what about things like Netflix and Amazon Prime?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Google Play works. Games, yeah, I suppose there is that, but there's still a lot of people on older Android versions So yeah,
Yeah,
but again, I don't know why they stick with 7.
I
Surely.
think it must be easy for them to just mess with. I don't I don't know enough about Android in that sense. I've never customized it or messed with it. I did it a few years ago, but only just to root it. Probably easier to root, I would think,
Yeah, I mean
than
it's
anything
Android
else.
version 7.1
So you
actually.
can route it
So,
a lot easier on that version. All
yeah,
newer versions are really well. I mean, they try to make it harder and harder to route. I'm
yeah.
sure
But
it's
I don't
still
know what.
possible.
Yeah, but I don't know what they're trying to route. Because Android TV does exist. So I'm not sure what they're trying to do. Emulation Station does exist.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell us, or maybe what we should do is look to see if there's any Android TV consoles out there that because you can, emulation on them is meant to be really good anyway. So buy your own for 40 quid. But again, you got to mess around. 50,000 games. How long will that get an image?
it's. I think if you just want to get something and play it, or put it in a cabinet, build a cabinet, put this in the
Yeah,
cabinet. It's got USB ports, and you just buy a USB card, which then you put attach the wires
yeah,
to, for the controllers, for the arcade controllers, and you're away. Whereas you have to download it, you have to burn the image, you have to make sure it works, you have to configure it.
yeah.
It's all there. You know it's going to work if you do put a 4K display in a cabinet, which kind of defeats the object, I think, a bit.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I will have to see, but it's obviously using the Open Linux system, which I think Emulation Station does anyway. But yeah, so the 64 gig version's £81 on Amazon, 128 gig 94, and 256 gig £128. That's UK pounds. Obviously, there's the US dollars version. There's 155.
About
It is at the
155,
moment.
159, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's worth getting. If you've got the cash and you want to take something with you on holiday, although if you go through customs, you try to prove it works, you probably never get it back.
no, they'll be side back
There'll
playing
be people
it.
sat back playing with
Yeah,
it. I remember this. Well, that's great. So you've got your pre-built, pre-made, pre-imaged device, and then you've got RetroPie, which is not. So that's your full operating system, which uses Emulation Station. So Emulation Station, for people who don't know, that's the front end menu system. So it's not the emulators themselves, because there's quite a few in there packaged up. Emulation Station is just the front end GUI, so you can go through to the different
and
ones.
that's
Like,
come a long way, hasn't it? There's some brilliant GUIs now for
yeah,
that.
and the customization on that, you can make it look amazing or really basic, however you want to do. But that's all packaged in with RetroPie. So if you want to just get the emulators and a front end, and you don't want to worry about trying to install various bits of software on Linux command lines, that's the perfect way to go. It works. I mean, I would say get a get a Raspberry Pi 4. At least then you've got some of the sort of newish consoles. The first generation of the new generation, as it were, like PlayStation 1 and 2.
Tell you what makes good emulation machines, all-in-one PCs, cheap all-in-one, or a cheap, the amount
PC.
of people, the amount of people that are selling these, old HP and Dell Optiplexes that, businesses are getting rid of, and you can pick them up for like 80 quid, and there's enough in there to put RetroArch on. And there's tons of videos on there doing it. It's a bit more fiddly, I think, than certainly you do on the Raspberry Pi, definitely. But do you know what? For 80 quid, you can have a pretty powerful emulation machine.
I thought about that. I thought about just buy a bit X business machine on eBay.
Yeah.
Something that's just got a fairly up to date Intel CPU, so graphics card isn't too bad, so it can decode. But do you know what? I went for Raspberry Pi purely for the heating issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've considered putting a fan in there just to keep it a bit cooler. You got a monitor in there, you got power packs in there, and a few other bits and pieces. And I always thought maybe I should just put a small fan in there. Will be nothing, and you won't hear it. Whereas you're going to put a desktop in there, even a small form factor one, you're going to get heating issues, and it's the weight as well. You're adding more weight to the cabinet. Luckily, what I did is I got a cabinet where it splits down. So you've got the base, and then you've got the top, and you put the top on the base. So if you decide that you want an arcade machine on your table in your dining room, you can just take off the top unit, bring it in, and put it on. Now it's light enough that one person, when you start adding like desktop stuff like that, it starts getting quite heavy. That's one of the reasons why it's mobile. It's something I can move around if I have to in the house. Even though it's sat in the kitchen and dining room for over a year, kids played on it a lot. That's why I'd always say go for a Raspberry Pi. And RetroPie is easier to do. Yeah, like you said, I know there's RetroArch and all that, but I would always go for that. Again, you can like I've done, you can get another one of those USB controllers and plug anything you want in, including something behind me there. You can just stick that plug straight into USB if you wanted. If you wanted real controllers, where you have to buy them and put them into your cabinet, you have to do a bit of wiring. There's no soldering. It's just literally screwing the cables. But again, it's emulated.
Yeah.
And it's not dedicated. At the end of the day, if you had the money, would you have just the arcade machines themselves? If you had the space and money, of course.
Well, you would. I mean, I even, I don't know, so Toys R Us in here now, but Smith's Toys, and there's many actually in the UK. So have you heard of Arcade 1-Up?
No, don't ring a bell.
So Arcade 1-Up have got official licensed arcade machines, and they are consoles of about £250, £300. And it's when we went into Smith's for something else, and I saw a Pac-Man, yellow Pac-Man arcade machine, and I thought, well, I could do with one of them. And you got the seat with it, Pac-Man seat, and you can get the riser to go underneath to make it taller, because it wasn't very tall. But I looked at it and it had it was licensed, it had the full stickers on the side, and I thought, oh, this is nice. And I started researching, and they brought a fair few out, but it's like, obviously in the US, in the UK, Argos do one or two of them, and they've just brought out a sit-down machine, if you want, if anyone wants to get that. But again, trying to get that in the UK is hard at the moment. But I've seen people then go, right, okay, I'm going to, whatever's in it, I'm going to put a Raspberry Pi, I'm going to put emulation on it. So by the time you've got a cabinet for £399 and you do what you do, I sometimes think it have been easier just to buy a cabinet and put your own, do it yourself, rather than buying one of these that you obviously already feel you need to, do something.
Again, you're going with, do I have the time to build it?
Yeah.
And do I have the skills to build it? And if I don't, I'm going to pay that little bit extra. And it's the same with the console earlier, the Superconsole X. You're gonna, if you just want that instant products, then you're gonna go down that route.
It is, but you're only going to get. I mean, these Arcade 1-Up machines, they've only got some of them only come with about 4 games. It's Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, whatever, or Galaxians.
It's because of the licensing.
Yeah, exactly, the licensing. But obviously, people have stripped them out and put, RetroPie or done whatever. And it's like, you probably should have got your own, because the cabinets are okay, but the miniaturized versions, because they're to fit in people's houses.
Yeah.
So in some ways, they are good, but it's like, I'd want a proper meatier. For £800, you can get a great cabinet and put retro. You don't
have to spend £800 for a cabinet.
No, you don't. But
the one that I bought, I think it was about 250.
Yeah.
250. It gives you the cabinet. And you obviously you got to build it yourself.
Yeah,
which isn't hard. And then you got to obviously decide what you're going to paint it, how you're going to paint it. But it's at the back. You've got all the access panels. You just turn something and you pull it down. You can get access to top and bottom bits. It's been all well thought out. You don't have to cut holes or anything like that in there. That was about £250. But obviously, then you have to buy the trim.
Yeah.
So it's been pre-cut, so you can put the trim on, the plastic trimming and everything, and you just spray paint it to however you want, and put your kit inside. So you've got a bit of work there. I mean, you can buy ones that are.
I think that's what I mean. I think the £800 I saw had the
Already done.
the top with the lights and already done and already painted, and it come with whatever transfers. In fact, you could pick God knows how many, so they'd already done it for you. Or that you had to build it; it just came in flat pack and you built it.
That's a bit expensive, 800 quid for that, but
it was nice.
Yeah. I should start doing that then.
Oh yeah,
because it was no, all right. There's time involved, but there's nowhere near, spending 800. Well, I'd say you're probably spending 400 quid in materials tops, for a good design. So, the Retro Brothers arcade machines.
Why not?
Put our faces on the side and get them sold. Get them out the door.
Yeah. If anyone wants to see any of them, we'll do them.
So RetroPie is a thing, and you can use it, and you just stick it in any project you want. You don't even have to. I mean, I have a RetroPie, not even in the case behind me. It's a DNS server for in the house, the one that I set up a while back. In fact,
yeah,
it's still there. It's still doing its business, but there's no case. So you could throw a RetroPie underneath your TV, throw in your favourite games, download an image, and away you go. So, I mean, and again, buy one of those controllers so you can just plug it in.
Yeah.
But again, it's emulated, so is there a downfall to emulation? All right, might have performance issues if you don't put the right kit in there.
Yeah, it depends.
Most controllers are detected these days.
Yeah.
Most hardware is detected these days.
Yeah.
And the beauty of our emulation is you can put thousands of games on, whereas
system on the chips are getting better, so emulation's only going to get better.
Exactly.
And they're getting better every update, every quarter, every year, even nearly every month on some of them. They coming up with updates and improving stuff. It's not these people. They're not, who supports them and makes them. They're not resting on the laurels whatsoever, because it changes. There's new games out all the time. In another 5 years, games from 10 years ago are retro, so it'll be all about emulating. They're already emulating. Obviously, PlayStation 2s are already. They'll start emulating PlayStation 3s and 4s eventually. They'll all be retro at some point. Where do you stop? Yeah, where do you stop? Yeah, yeah. I quite like the mouse, which is like it looks like a Nintendo my Nintendo NAS system controller shaped as a mouse. It's weird. Obviously, you've got your four directional things, but that's how the mouse. It's got So that's going to be. I'm going to get That's a challenge. Get one and see how the hell that works. Yeah. Yeah. Is a D-pad navigation? Is that going to be enough? I mean, it talks about a 3D touch panel. I don't know what. I can't quite see what that is, but I don't know. It looks. Yeah. So that's not. Yeah, I'm not sure it is the panel because it's for 20 quid. I'm not sure it'd be that. Yeah, it's weird. It's. People read. Yeah, 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 I'm not sure how the D. Yeah, I'm not sure if D-pad would. No, I don't either. Be worth. Be worth getting one. Or is it something that's just going to sit in a box? Exactly. Yeah. Display it. And that's maybe what we should do. Rate it, display it, use it. Display it. I'm not sure I'd use it, but I don't know. I'd like to try it. It is different for the sake. It's not 40, 50. It's not overly expensive, but yeah, 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 yeah. The coffee on the website looks more appealing than the mouse.
It does actually, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's sat next to what looks like a Mac and some coffee. So the guys are clearly playing some retro pie games or some retro games in a
Well,
coffee shop.
I suppose on the Mac that's all you need to play the games because they're not. Yeah,
That's true. That's true. So yeah, that's worth looking to see if you
yeah,
want controllers. So before we move on to sort of like some retro computer updates, in terms of by going out and buying a full end console, sorry, arcade machine or full end console, or by the time you finish, you've got shelves full of them with all the wires going into the back, but you've got the true sort of feeling and you've got the true experience of having one of those consoles, putting the cartridge in, putting the CD-ROM in, um, putting whatever device it is, storage device in there. You've got the individual controllers from back then. What's the benefit
what of an emulation or real console?
for the real? Because I'm leaning towards emulation.
I am. Well, it's cost of fortune. A real console. I mean, yeah, yeah. Now you can go on and think, okay, I'm going to go out and buy a Sega Mega Drive, a brand, not a brand new one, but although people are doing them now, where you can use the original cartridges. But it is about how much are the original cartridges.
That's the thing. You can buy the console, but then you got to buy all the games.
Yeah, so I don't know people do, and you see people, they've got lines on the shelves, and yeah, that's great, and that, but oh God, how much does it cost to do all, for all that? Unless you're lucky enough to get somebody who's got a clearance and they're selling 50, 100 job lot games for, it's still going to cost you more than it would to just get a console. I don't know.
Yeah.
Would I feel like playing any Sega Mega Drive games or N64 games or anything if I had the console? Probably not. And again, it's back to this convenience, isn't it? People CD. I don't can't be. I do have. I've got some 4K Blu-rays, and I brought them downstairs because I thought, well, I ain't watching them because they're upstairs. So I brought them, put them next to the TV. Still don't watch them. I just stream. And yeah, okay, the 4K Blu-rays are better, much better quality, really are. But I don't know. I've become lazy as a site. I can't be asked getting off the couch to get the CD out to put it in.
First world problems.
That's another 30 seconds. And is it the same with an arcade machine? Get the cartridge out of the box, put the cartridge in there, turn it on, wait for it to boot up.
If you want to show,
after a minute, right? Because you do, don't you? You've got right. I played on that for a few minutes. Out with another one. So emulation's best for that. But it depends how authentic you want it. But for me, emulation.
Maybe for educational purposes, I think for educational and historical, these devices need saving. They need, some way of being able to fix them and then keep them running. Because, say, when my kids have kids, and I'm a grandfather, and they're using, I don't even know what they'll be using to play games. Probably just the mobiles, like we talked about in a previous episode.
Yeah.
you know what? Well, with the go, you know, what did you play? And if you're able to pick up a physical device, plug it into the TV, and say, right, now you have to go get the game. Oh, you mean you download it? It's like, no, there's no downloading. You have to physically pick up the cartridge. But I'll buy it first and then plug it in. It's like, oh, that's weird, you know. I think for educational purposes, it's a good thing to have, and I think it's good to have maybe one or two yourself to remind yourself of the nostalgia.
Yeah, I'm saying emulation, then I've got them. So,
but do you use them?
Not since they've been displayed there, but again, it's like I'm going to have to pick it. But and this is another thing, I think we talked prior to the show that I'd probably, rather than a display, it'd be nice if it were a display where it were also wired into a TV on the wall, so I can just move over there, turn it on, and play it. But probably not like that. It would have to be on something a bit more that I can pull out or raise.
Because you could put them on arms, couldn't you? You could, just push the arms down and then keep them.
And maybe do that. And I might look at something like that, because at the moment, it's like I've got to get that out. I've then got to go and get the converter box which comes with it, which converts it from RGB to SCART, then SCART into HDMI to plug into my monitor, because obviously it's the outputs are different. So it's half an hour before I do anything with it. But when I did have it out, when I first got it and I didn't have it out and I played on it, it was a better experience than me sitting down there on a laptop on a BBC emulator.
Yeah, I mean, firing up in a BBC emulator, or you're just not getting that same feeling. No. Typing on the keyboard, using it, the smell and everything about it.
But the touch of the keyboard,
everything. You can't get away from using the real thing. But when we're talking about consoles and emulation of consoles and stuff, I think you're probably more likely to buy a retro computer than you are a retro console. I mean, I've still got my Jaguar console, and I would never give it up, because it was a failed console, and that's one of the reasons why I've kept it, actually, because I didn't, they tried to make quite a few of them and slowly disappear into.
When Game, I can't remember what it Game or another one, when they bought the rights, or when they bought all the Jaguar stock and they're selling them for £30 brand new, I didn't get one.
Gutted, because I paid the full price when they came out.
Yeah, I'd have bought two and gone, look what I've got. But I didn't.
I mean, so one day, will I take out the Jaguar console? Because I'll be more afraid about taking it out, plugging it in, and it just blows.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do now? But then, if I don't take it out of the box, then what's the point of keeping it? Am I just keeping it until I'm in my 70s and I need the money and I sell it on, and I can sell it for $2, $3, $4 because it's not just retro, it's
it's arcade.
It's an antique.
It's an antique.
I mean, I
don't know. It's weird, because I've noticed the Atari 2600s you can pick them up cheap at the moment. The wood panelled ones, and I don't know why.
The woodies were really hard to get hold of, weren't they?
But now the woodies, I've gone on eBay, and they're cheaper than some have been going for £150, which to me is cheap.
Yeah, they've been more than that.
And I don't know why, but lately they have. And I don't know. Is it because there's everyone who really wants one has got them?
I think so. There were a point where people were buying them because there were
antique. They were buying them because there were no emulation.
Yeah,
I think since Raspberry Pi, and then we've got Retro Pi on Raspberry Pi and everything else. The need to play 2600 games is just that.
Let's face it. How long are you going to play one of those games for?
Well, dear.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was one Christmas I was given a miniaturized version of an Atari console, and it had about 50 games on it. And you went through them pretty quickly, and you were like, "Oh, I remember that." And then afterwards, it's like, "Okay, so I'm going to switch that off now."
Yeah, I've got the handheld retro handheld console, which is, again, it's got 50, and it's the same as yours. But it's
I would like the Atari Lynx console.
Yeah, Yeah, but I mean, that were different. Yeah, that were great.
That was
I
different.
think that was ahead of its time, and I think because I think the technology wasn't there to keep it charged. That was its downfall. The fact is that I think it lost its charge after an hour.
Yeah, they weren't great, but again, getting the failed ones I find more interesting than the ones. I had the Apple. Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's the first PDA they ever came out. Newton.
Yeah.
Apple Newton. I had that. It was massive. But because it was so big, it felt like you're holding a sheet of paper and you could write on it properly. And I was in a meeting and I was using it, and someone went, "Oh, look at the size of that." And I'm like, he had a little PDA. It was like this size, one of the Microsoft ones. And I'm like, yeah, but can you see anything on that screen? Can you actually write on it? Oh, I don't need to do that. Look how tiny it is. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
it's a great little device.
Yeah, I bet
should not have sold it.
Yeah, I bet they've got an iPad now, haven't they?
Probably. Yeah, don't get started. So yeah, I mean, I should have never sold that. I should have kept that because that probably like very rare these days. I would say anybody who wants to start investing just purely just for a collection, personal collection, on retro kit like BBCs, Ataris, Amigas, and all those, do it now.
Yeah,
because there's still plenty of stock out there, still plenty of devices out there, and they're relatively cheap still.
You can get the parts for them as well, some of them.
Yeah.
So you can replace the parts, the capacitors.
Yeah.
Get replaced because it'll add another 20 years lifespan on them.
Exactly. The Commodore PETs are rare, so they're quite expensive now.
Yeah, I've been
but if you can grab one of those, again, grab it. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to start collecting these sort of things, do it now because in coming years, I think emulation is going to be the only way that people are going to get hold of these things because they are going to become more and more rare. So yeah, I'm going to go with emulation.
Yeah.
I like having a retro device, but like you, I'll probably just display it more than I would play it. Unless one day, your grandkids are walking up to you and going, Granddad, what did you use?
But emulation's just convenient. It's all about skipping through 10 games in an hour.
Yeah.
Which is what we would do. And I think that's what it's all about. It's not about I'm going to put a game in and play it for an hour because then you probably would have the real thing. But
especially specky games. Specky games take so long to load on the real thing.
Having said that, and I can't, it really eludes me who the software vendor are, but when they brought out their 8-bit for Xbox, so I had my Xbox 360, I found myself playing Jetpack for an hour, whereas I think I was playing the latest Call of Duty Ghost Recon it were at the time. I was bored after 40, so I actually played Jetpack longer than I did Call of Duty Ghost Recon, which that's bizarre. But I did. It's just one of them things. But yeah,
there you go. It's you remember certain games and you want to fire it up. I remember I can't remember which Atari game it was now, Pitfall maybe. I remember that really well. Think, I want to play that. And when I played it, like, this is kind of basic. And
you had one for the Acorn Electron. Is it Citadel?
Oh, Citadel was great.
Brilliant game.
I spent an entire day. Yeah. I mean, that game was huge. I mean, I would love to find a map online for that game because it's massive.
Yeah.
It's about 10 coloured keys. Well, probably not even that because they probably didn't have 10 colours. There were like certain coloured keys. And I actually started playing that game on a black and white TV, which made it really hard because like when you picked it up, like, what colour is this? So you had to go back to where you needed to go, try and lock it, and it goes, oh no, you did red key. It's like, right, okay, that can't be red. So I got quite good at it. Citadel was a great game. Massive.
Well, I tried to look for it for BBC, but I don't think they made it. I think it was just Electron. I'm sure it was.
I still have the cassette. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at Electrons now. But the only reason I wasn't going to go, and I thought, well, I've got BBC. What do I need an Electron for? But then at the moment they're cheap, and you can get the add-ons for them cheap. System 1, System 2s.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, with the at the back of it, types. Yeah. And I thought I'm going to buy it just for Citadel because I love Citadel. And even
you can have a copy.
And even Elite were good on the Electron.
Obviously, I don't condone copying games, but it's so old. It'd be out of licensing anyway, I would assume. But always check with the licensee first before copying anything.
Yeah, because somebody might have bought the license, just not done
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, they might have done. Yeah, they might have bought all the back catalogue. So
yeah, so I'm looking at an Electron because I thought, well, it's small enough to go in the middle. But then Citadel, no, I always remember Citadel being like you play it. I thought, yeah, brilliant game.
It's a great game. I'll probably play it now and think this is an absolute pile of rubbish.
Exactly. So maybe that's what you should do. Let's get let's get an Acorn. Let's review it next week.
Well, if we can get an Acorn Electron emulation,
yeah,
and then get the game. Week? I mean,
if we can.
I did talk about maybe doing a bit of Twitch broadcast at some point. Yeah. So maybe we save it up. Maybe we get the emulators stacked up
and then play some games.
And then play some online.
And if people want to suggest some, and they've got to be 8-bit, maybe.
Don't ruin it. No. 16-bit's the thing.
Yeah, 16-bit. Yeah, but obviously don't.
Not PC games though.
No, not PC games, and nothing beyond PS2. I don't know. Well, PS1.
Yeah.
And even then, let's stick to, pre 1993, maybe. I don't know. But
so, should we say anything before? Let's say before 1990. Anything up to 1990.
Yeah. So yeah, Atari ST.
And if we can get hold of it, we'll do it. We'll set it up. We'll set up a special streaming event.
Yeah.
We've got a few more viewers, and we'll just get it on Twitch, and we'll just do some retro games. They work quite well actually on Twitch. So
yeah, I've noticed we have a few on YouTube now. They can see us.
Well, that's good.
There's two more than me and you.
Two more.
It back.
So emulation, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Get buy the hardware for nostalgia. Keep hold of it. Tender care of it because these are going to be antiques one day, and we need to be able to show people how these things worked. There were no internet, no downloading games.
No. Now, obviously, we're going to contradict ourselves now because we're now going to look at systems that. I mean, this is slightly different apart from the C64. So there's a couple of system updates. So as I don't know if people know, we did touch on the Commander X16 in its infancy in one of us earlier shows. But obviously, I just want to touch on it again because there's new. Obviously, if you look at it, it's now the designs there now, the testing the board. It's the concept. It's no longer concept art. That's the case at the moment. Now, I'm very. What's surprising is they've gone for a separate module for the computer, so it's not a built-in keyboard. Yeah, they've gone. Yeah, well, it's interesting because obviously Commander X16. So this is an inception started by, and there's a channel by a guy called the 8-Bit Guy, who's obviously based in the US. If this were based in the UK, I can imagine it had been an all-in-one keyboard and a module. Whereas it's obviously, it is. It looks like an A, well, not an A1000, but like those. But it's getting there. Looking at it, again, this is an emulation. It's a full circuit. And they're on prototype 2 at the moment. So, yeah. Well, they've just done the final keyboard samples ordered, so they've settled on the keyboard now. Now, version 2 of the ROM. So they've released the ROM into GitHub. So you can actually emulate that machine now before it's released, a bit like the Spectrum Next did. So yeah, it's obviously the ROM's there, so you can emulate it. So the emulation's out, or you can wait for the hardware. I'm not sure. So obviously, if they're on the second revision already of the prototype, I think you probably, I think it's going to be available fairly soon. Obviously, so it's based on, so the CPU's a WDC 65. I don't know what CPU that is actually. Yeah, because it's you don't understand. So, but I don't know. So the CPU, I don't know what a WDC CPU is or what it's supposed to emulate, but it's only going up to 8 megahertz. It's got 512K of high RAM and 40K of low RAM, which is so again, 512K, it's half a meg, but it's expandable to 2 meg. It's got 512K of flash ROM. It's using Microsoft Basic version 2. Again, I think it's based on Commodore's Basic because that was also based on Microsoft Basic. Yeah, it's got expansion slots. Yeah, and PS2. So this is what I think we talked about this before. Input devices, PS2 keyboard, PS2 mouse. It's got SNES style game ports. Why? Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's Microsoft Basic 2.
I get that he's building it from scratch. Yeah, I'm struggling with this project still. I've said this before. Some of the decisions he's made, I'm not convinced by. I'm sure he has a reason for it.
I mean, it's obviously gone VGA as well instead of composite or HDMI.
Yeah.
I mean, he says PS2 instead of USB because it's more difficult to implement and they don't have the resources to do that. But there's probably no reason why in the future, if resource available, they wouldn't. But he's just stuck with.
And does it mean resources as in system resources?
When we have the resources, so that's people, because I think there's only 2 people doing this that I know of. I don't think it's.
I just think it'd be easier to do USB, but I'm not a hardware engineer, so yeah, fair enough. If that's what you had to do, I mean, okay, do that, but please include some USB converters in there. You know, so people can use the hardware. Straight away I'm looking at going, well, would I buy this if I have to find some now PS2 converters? Yeah, there's no firm dates or anything on there. It's almost vaporware at the moment. It's a pet project. This is my point. This is a pet project which may one day come into sort of being where you can buy it, but you have to buy it off a website. It's going to do just a run of 100, 200, 500, or pre-orders of up to 1,000. So you might not be able to get one. A bit like the Spectrum that you got. Whereas you can go out and buy that retro emulation machine straight off Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, it's SD card, which is emulating, the floppy and CD drive formats. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, I do like it. I think what he's done, he's gone very much, like you say, right. The next is basically, if a Spectrum came out in the 90s or beyond, what would today's technology, what would it look like without basically it in a bloody Spectrum? It's just taken the name and it's a 64-bit machine. They've obviously put the right amount of, they've upgraded the graphics, and they've done enough, I think, to be to the successor of the Spectrum. Whereas this has gone, no, we'll stay in the constraints of 1985.
Yeah.
Vixen.
It's got a different way, and everyone's got their own sort of project they want to do.
I wouldn't mind, to be honest. It'd be just like buying a retro computer, and maybe that's what he's trying to do. but it's obviously very much based on, you know, because the C65 didn't come out. I mean, it's very much based on those specs. And it's not gone, it doesn't look like it's as yet gone beyond that. Now, there's 4 expansion ports, but it doesn't really say what's going to be put in there. It can be done on anything.
Well, we'll have to see where it goes, I guess. Again, I'm just sort of holding out hope that he gets it off the production line and actually able to shift a few units and it works for people. Something we'll have to keep following on.
Yeah, but it's getting ever so closer. So that you know, that was the thing. Like I said, the second prototype's out. That's the design now. The keyboard and the additional, the external case. Finding space to put that on. It doesn't, although it doesn't look that big actually when you look at the keyboard and then the case. But I'm just wondering.
I think it's smaller than you think, actually. Yeah,
not an all-in-one unit. I suppose if he's putting expansion slots in it, I suppose he wants. Yeah, it really is. You know, it's an A1000, isn't it? Pretending to be a Commodore 64, but it's not a Commodore 64 because it's not running Commodore 64 games. But it is based on that basic.
Let's see what happens with that. So the C64 updates.
So I've got one. I've not updated mine, but the C64's got a new update. It was nice to see that they brought one out last year. It'd been out for over a year and no updates. But one did come out last year. They brought out another one, which is great. It's added more games. It's fixed a few bugs. There were a few bugs in the last release. It adds more, so you can now, so the C64 joystick port, so you can plug and unplug joysticks. And now before, it was temperamental. If you plugged and unplugged joysticks in a game, it crash. Now you can it's hot swappable, and it's now supports different joysticks as well. Compatible, and it adds stuff to the Mini. Do you remember the Mini that came out, which I thought were fair? I don't know. I'm not a fan of Minis because it were a little keyboard which you couldn't do anything. It's like, why have you done that? You can't do anything with that keyboard, but it looked cute. But they've added the Commodore 64 Classic mode to that now, so they're even updating stuff on the first version. Disc swapping's now there, so you can swap discs. It supports 2 meg, 16 meg file flags now. So if people are creating a Commodore 64 game that goes over and beyond the original 64K, you can now play it on the C64 as well. But
that's good to keeping this up to date.
Yeah, and the games, like I say, you know, they've added some games. They've added some more VIC-20 games as well, because obviously VIC-20 is part of this system. But yeah, I think it's extended memory support is also for the VIC-20 as well. So you know, can you imagine having 512K and a VIC-20?
It would have been amazing.
Wow, you know, 3.5K we had.
Yeah, it would have been good.
But yeah, I mean, even in the version below that, which I'd not even updated to that came out last year, that added some games as well. So they're adding stuff to it all the time, and it's still available. I've not played mine for a while, and I keep meaning to get it out and, you know, and have a play. The only thing, like I said before, you know, I've done a teardown. I've opened it up, and it's just like this big case with a little, well, almost, you know.
Yeah. Hey,
so
you know what? Things have got smaller.
Pick up, it's light. And I wish that I put something in it to make it heavy. You know, just to make it feel substantial.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll fill it up with a weight or something.
Put a metal plate or something on the base. Yeah.
Maybe I'll put something in it myself. But I quite like it. And of course, I don't know if, in fact, I'll get it actually and show people, because what I've done. So there's a guy in Hungary who makes cases, and he creates the logos. It gets logo stickers. So instead of it being the 64, which obviously they didn't have the license for Commodore. I've actually now, it says Commodore 64.
Official.
So yeah, official. So the power and that. So it now it does look better.
Just for the people who are on the audio only version, is instead of the C64 now shows Commodore 64. It looks like the official logo now.
Yeah, there wasn't allowed to use the logo, so yeah, instead of saying the 64, and even though it sort of used the colours, it now says Commodore 64 with the Commodore logo. I'm not sure if the guy in Hungary has license to do this, but you know, I think I paid £10 for the label.
I think it'd be more taking the sort of sticker and putting it on a product than probably more likely to come after you.
Yeah, but I'll try and find a link for the guy because it does them all. So if anyone needs a replacement sticker for the original Spectrum or the original Commodore 64, whatever, you can buy these because you know there's a lot of people now buying bashed up machines or buying machines that are dirty, and you know, and people are showing you how you can clean them up and restore them, you know. So labels are hard to get. I mean, obviously you can print your own, but this guy's doing them, and they are very authentic labels. Really, you know, it's not a sticker. It is like the
sort of like the metal backed.
Yeah, it is. That's what it is. Yeah,
that's good. Well, if you get the link before I upload a video,
I definitely will. So
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So good that the 64 still there, and it's been updated.
It's good to know that you buy something like that, and it was a Kickstarter, wasn't it?
I think it was. The Mini was.
Was it a crowdfund? Was this not a crowdfund?
No. I think the full size version wasn't, or I never saw it was, and they just released. I think obviously because they already had everything in the Mini.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't much to bet the full size version, which they always talked about, to be honest, because it was going to be the C64 Max and C64 Mini, but this is just the 64. But it's great, and I think
if you fancy something like that,
I think it's sold fairly well as well because it's available everywhere.
Get it? It's not going to be one of those vaporwares that we're seeing at the moment for other stuff, but it's alive and kicking, and it's been updated, it's been supported. So kudos to them. So that's the C64. Is retrogames.biz the website to look for the actual device itself?
It is, yeah. That's the.
I'll put up on the show notes from the show notes as well. A link on there below the video. So that's episode 2, all done.
Another week.
So please, anybody, comment on the YouTube video. Like and subscribe. That's the first time I'm going to say that, and I'll say that a few times. Good or bad comments.
Yeah, and the Retro Brothers soundtrack's out on all digital platforms. So listen to a soundtrack and keep us in mind when you're listening to it.
And any comments on that as well? Make sure you do it in the right place.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.